Hello everyone, and welcome Blue Jays Breakdown. I'm so grateful you're here. If you're enjoying this content and would like to see more videos like this, please support the channel by subscribing.
Very quickly for the Toronto Blue Jays, as John Heyman has just dropped a huge report surrounding their pursuit of a starting pitcher in what has been an offseason filled with transactions and moves across the MLB, and of course the Jays missing out recently on Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette. This new report not only has fans very intrigued, but folks, has picked up very quickly over the last 12 to 24 hours. We're going to break down the report and discuss what it means going forward. But not only that, we do have some other updates you're going to want to stay tuned to the very end for. But folks, trust me, you're going to want to watch this entire video. But before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. You guys are an absolute beast with the support, folks. Let's dive right into the video. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about a starting pitcher today in Framber Valdez that I have covered before on the channel. But a report dropped yesterday that not only reveals that the Jays have serious interest, but reveals some very interesting information even after the Jays have spent a ton of money on starting pitching already. Let's dive right into it. Now, a couple different things here. It's obviously on Framber Valdez. You can see this report from John Heyman right here. The Jays are among several teams that have interest in top free agent starter Framber Valdez. Joel Sherman and I have learned. Now, this was a very random tweet, right? The NBA trade deadline's going on. People were talking about Giannis getting traded. You know, some minor MLB trades are going on, right? And it's a little bit of a slow part of the offseason for the MLB. The John Heyman out of nowhere tweets about the Jays, and he says among several teams, but the only team he mentions is the Toronto Blue Jays being interested in Framber Valdez from both him and very reliable insider and reporter Joel Sherman. Now, this itself would have been enough for me to be like, okay, things are starting to pick up here, and clearly his market has absolutely plummeted, right? Absolutely plummeted. But it's not just this report that has piqued the interest of a lot of people, because John Heyman, and obviously you see this, a lot of people started saying and even replying to John Heyman's tweet with, hey, this is just leverage. The Jays are being used as leverage for the Baltimore Orioles so the Orioles can get him, or so that the Astros can get him back. Folks, that is not the case, because John Heyman himself replied to one of these tweets. You can see here, Framber's agents are really trying to make the Orioles sweat. And John Heyman said, unsurprisingly, conspiracy theorist misses the mark. So he went out and directly, I guess, countered what James Shano on Twitter said here, basically saying it's not a leverage play. The Jays are seriously interested. So this is where my interest started to peak. Now, there is concerns about the clubhouse, clubhouse issues with Framber Valdez. He threw a fastball at his catcher intentionally, I think missing the, the sign there, mixing up the signs. All that stuff is very crucial. And again, will he fit in the clubhouse? We'll have to see. The clubhouse is an absolute, delight right now. It's the best it's ever been in, the MLB. I mean, it's probably one of the best clubhouses in MLB history, as crazy as that sounds, at least based on last year. Do you want to mess that up? I don't know. But let's focus on the pitching side of it. For John Heyman to not only just specifically mention the Jays and not the specific other teams, then come out and actually, counter the fact that it's just a leverage play. This makes things super interesting. And you look at Framber Valdez, right? Like, he pitches to contact. The Jays have an elite infield defense. They wanted to get Kyle Tucker. They wanted to kind of get Bo Bichette. They spent a lot of money, but they have more money to spend. I mean, it makes sense, and things are picking up quickly here. You can see this here from Frank Amarante. The Blue Jays would be a phenomenal landing spot for Framber Valdez. Why? Elite infield defense with Ernie Clement and Andres Jimenez. Perfect for a ground ball machine like Valdez. Make it happen, Ross Atkins. And this has started the conversation now again of, are the Jays just being used as leverage, or is it a serious play? Obviously, John Heyman's saying they're not being used as leverage. I still think the Orioles are the favorites at this point. Like, full transparency, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles get it right. I think that's probably the team. But, like, the longer this goes on, you have to assume the better it is for the Jays. Because if you think back to the reports from Ben Nicholson Smith and others, they said Framber would really only be an option if he comes down to the Jays market, which we don't know exactly what they're willing to pay at this point, whether it be a 2-year deal, something like that. It makes a ton of sense. Like, this guy has ace caliber potential. You can see here, if I were Framber Valdez's agent, I'd target a 2-year high AAV deal with the player opt-out. His 2025 was solid, but some late season optics likely capped long-term offers. A strong 2026 could reset his market and set up another run at free agency. This should be fantastic, right? 2 years, $60 million or something, which sounds crazy. Opt out after year one. Get him for a year. Try to win a World Series again. Maybe they like him. Maybe the clubhouse thing is fine and they have him long-term. You kind of mitigate your risk of a long-term deal. You have a lockout potentially after this year. You also mitigate some of the clubhouse stuff. If it isn't great, you can move on from him after a couple years if he opts in, 1 year if he opts out. It makes so much sense for the Jays, especially now that his market seems to be trending towards a short-term deal. Now, Spotrac has his projected market value at 6 years, $200 million. I don't think the Jays are going to touch that with the 10-feet pole. I don't think they want to give Framber Valdez a very long-term deal. I think if he was going to get 6 years and probably $200 million, it would have already been done months ago or weeks ago, maybe even months ago. Yeah, it's almost we're almost in the middle of February here, approaching March. Short-term deal, like roster economics is saying, and roster economics makes sense. Get it done at this point. I actually would love this. You can see this here from Zach Marshall. If any locker room could bring in Valdez with no issues, it's Toronto. They'd also provide the elite infield defense he needs, and Vlad/Kirk feel like the perfect duo to keep him calm on the mound. Lock it in. At this point, I would like it a lot. They currently have Cease, Gosman, Bieber, Yasavage, Ponce, Barrios. Keep in mind, Barrios is a player option after this year. He's probably going to opt out and go to free agency or leave or might even get traded. Kevin Gosman, free agent after this upcoming year. You don't know what you're getting at a Trey Savage regarding durability. He hasn't done it before. Cody Ponce, same thing, durability. He hasn't done it at the MLB level before at started multiple games. You have Eric Lauer. You have Badman Francis. Get a surefire thing. Flex those financial muscles before the potential lockout after this season and get it done. Now, to make things even better, the Astros were asked yesterday night about any conversations they've had with Framber Valdez. Of course, the Astros, in case you don't know, are his former team. Astros, quote, haven't had any conversations lately, end quote, about Framber Valdez's return, says GM Dana Brown. It's all lining up perfectly, folks. This is a guy that, again, the Jays have continued to be linked to him for a while. Ben Nicholson-Smith reported that in winter meetings before they officially signed the deal, with the pitcher Dylan Cease, they had conversations and there was mutual interest between him, or at least interest from the Jays side, between him and Framber, and probably mutual interest as well. I mean, what else can you ask for, right? Like, to me, it's a perfect fit. The clubhouse stuff, a little bit concerning. The Jays, they could probably figure that out. Get him on a short-term deal. It limits risks for kind of both sides if Framber doesn't think he's getting the money, because ultimately, I don't think he's getting that 6-year deal. You look at some of the comparables, all those guys are a little bit more reliable than Framber Valdez, though. Again, I don't want to, short Framber Valdez. Fantastic pitcher, was an ace in 2024. But folks, let me know. Do you want to get him? We've of course talked about him a lot in the channel, but this is the first time it seemed very real. And we'll see. We'll have to see if it ultimately comes true and comes to fruition, folks. But let's dive into a couple different things that have come up. So, a couple days ago, Mitch Bannon tweeted the statue the Blue Jays announced will be unveiled on July 18th. So there's being some statues now officially going around in Rogers Center. The Ted Rogers statue. You can see here further to this, the Ted Rogers statue currently outside Gate 6 will be removed. So that's what's being removed, and they're moving that to a corporate office, and they're replacing it with. Just to be clear here, I kind of probably confused you guys. The statue they're getting will be, I believe, a Joe Carter statue to commemorate the back-to-back, World Series appearances. So, or World Series championships, of course, in 92 and 93. So, folks, shout out to Joe Carter. Shout out to, those teams. And it's good that they're giving kind of, not giving back to the fans necessarily, but giving back to the players who, especially after a World Series run that the Jays had. Who knows what would have been if they won the World Series last year, but it's interesting there. A couple other things as well. Keep an eye out for Dalton Varsho as we approach 2026. People are underrating him. It's the time of the year where lists start to come out. People saying Dalton Varsho is not a top 10 center fielder, out of their minds. He's going to be unbelievable. He's going to have a healthy year, and he's going to be fantastic. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. Of course, also Framber Valdez. Do you want to see them on the Jays? See him on the Jays?
Wow. Does the sting of a stolen championship ever truly fade? Or does it just calcify into a burning need for revenge? We need to have a serious heart-to-heart conversation about the state of the Toronto Blue Jays as we stand here on February 3rd, 2026. The snow might still be on the ground in Ontario, but the heat coming off this front office is enough to melt the ice off the CN Tower. Welcome to Blue Jays Breakdown. If you love getting the latest updates and insider analysis on your favorite team, hit that subscribe button right now and help us reach 2,000 subscribers. Every update, every rumor, every breakdown happens right here on Blue Jays Breakdown, and I need you on this journey with us. To understand where we're going, we have to rip the bandage off and look at where we've been. We are still living in the shadow of the 2025 World Series. We were right there. One win away. The trophy was practically being polished for a parade down Yonge Street, and then the Los Angeles Dodgers took 2 straight games to snatch the crown. But it wasn't just a loss, it was a robbery. We need to talk about Game 6. That lodged ball call is going to haunt this franchise for decades. Remember the play? The ball gets stuck, or so they said. The ruling was a lodged ball, yet the center fielder had absolutely no issue picking it up and firing it back in. As one observer, Andres, rightly pointed out, the fielder didn't even make an effort to grab it immediately, yet the umpires bailed them out. It was a momentum killer, a technicality that felt like a dagger. That call didn't just change an inning, it potentially swung the entire history of Major League Baseball. The Blue Jays might have gotten screwed, plain and simple. That level of heartbreak creates a very specific kind of atmosphere in a locker room. It creates a vacuum that can only be filled by one thing: absolute, undeniable dominance the following year. Now, fast forward to today. The front office isn't sulking, they are plotting. We've seen a productive offseason, but the rumors swirling right now are about to turn this league upside down. We're talking about a potential $200 million move that signals to the rest of the American League East that Toronto is not just trying to compete, they are trying to build a dynasty that leaves nothing to chance, not even the umpires. The target? A World Series champion, a southpaw ace, and a man who brings as much baggage as he does brilliance. Framber Valdez. This isn't just a rumor, it's a statement of intent. The narrative here is shifting from what if to who's next. The pain of 2025 has transformed into the aggression of 2026. We're looking at a team that refuses to be defined by a controversial call in Game 6. They want to build a rotation so formidable that no single bad call can ever derail them again. But is Valdez the savior, or is he a stick of dynamite thrown into a fragile ecosystem? Why is a team that won 94 games and reached the World Series desperate to spend $200 million on a single arm? To answer that, you have to look at the geometry of the roster. The Toronto Blue Jays possess one of the most fearsome rotations in baseball, but it has a fatal flaw. It is completely lopsided. We're looking at an all-right-handed rotation. In the modern game, where analytics departments are dissecting launch angles and platoon splits down to the millimeter, entering a season without a high-leverage left-handed starter is like entering a boxing match with one hand tied behind your back. You might survive the early rounds, but eventually a lefty-heavy lineup, think the Yankees with their short porch or the Dodgers with their endless stream of MVP candidates, will expose you. This is where the Framber-Valdez connection becomes more than just a luxury. It becomes a tactical necessity. Mark Feinsand of MLB.com hit the nail on the head. Toronto clearly has money to burn. We saw them make a serious, legitimate bid for Kyle Tucker. That money didn't just evaporate because Tucker went elsewhere.